Now, when you think of archives, you might just think of paper and letters, but they can be transformed into more, like an exhibition. There is one on down in Brisbane right now. It's called Beneath This Skin. Artists have used information from First Nations archival records to create some really impactful works. Rose Barracliff is a Bachelor woman and the First Nations advisor at the Queensland State Archives, and artist Melissa Stannard is the curator of this exhibition, both of them based here on the Sunshine Coast. Rose, how do the works featured in the exhibition interact with the State Archive collection?
Well, they're based on the records we have at Queensland State Archive. So the artists have spent time at the archive doing their own research and finding the records that are relevant to them. And then they have used that as inspiration for the art.
Okay, so what sort of records are we talking about?
So we've got records from cartography through to exemption certificates, family histories. There's all sorts of things that have been looked at. So topographical mapping of areas like Mount Barney and Cloncurry. So Paula was looking at Longreach and Cunnamulla and the rail maps there. I think it was one of the very early rail maps of Queensland. Yeah, lots of family history interwoven and interpersonal, like family stories.
And so a lot of people, when they think of archives, just think of, paper and written words. But this is very much an exhibition. Just trying to wrap our head around what that looks like. As we walk in, what do we see?
So it starts with a large cow skin actually hung in space. And so you're seeing the back, the fur side of the cattle skin. And on the inside of that, when you walk into the space, you're seeing a vast array of cabinets and artwork spread out before you. But on the inside of that skin are screen prints of Sarah Zalewski, Sarah Zalewski Hode. So her work is looking at some of the terminology. And so she's one of the artists. They all deal with some of the uncomfortable and graphic content of our histories embedded in the archives, but how to share it in ways that aren't too traumatizing, but that get conversation started. And so she's got a copy of exemption certificates that her family applied for, where the uncomfortable term, "what breed are you?" is used. So that inspired a whole thing of like being treated like cattle. And then she's actually mixed that with her certificate of Aboriginality. So layering the historic and the contemporary proof and identity markers, I guess. There are cabinets with ceramics. So there's beautiful work by Desert Rain Magpie. Des has created this beautiful tea set. There's a common theme when we talk about identity from an Aboriginal perspective, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspective, of no matter how much milk you put in, it's still tea. When people do that skin quantum and that quantification, like, yeah, but what percentage are you? And all those uncomfortable topics. She and Sarah did this exceptional workshop learning how to work on and process native clays, like natural clays. And so the tea set's kind of in two sections. And so the one that's really gilded, it has the natural ochres and clays actually painted onto it, but it's been fired an extra couple of times, so it's all smoothed down and it looks perfect and pure and pristine, and it's got the gold edging. It's actually laying flat and tumbled and on its side. And the pieces that have the natural raw elements of the clay and the ochre have actually been elevated. So kind of counterbalancing how it would traditionally be seen. There's jewellery, there's printmaking, there's photography.
It's very varied.
Yeah, it's very multimedia. There's weaving with mannequins, but it's incredibly engaging work.
Yeah, what a great way to start a conversation about these really important things as well. Rose, how does it feel to see the archives come alive in this way this year?
Oh, I love it. And I love that these artworks have been produced by, firstly, artists who are emerging, but also this is their first interaction with the archive as well. I think it speaks to how powerful or how affecting archival records can be as long as people can access them. So I think, it's always so important to have creative artists accessing archival records and helping other people to understand the impact of what is written in these records and what these records have been used for to control the lives of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as well.
Yeah, what sort of impact can this have on our community's understanding of culture and history?
I think it helps to narrate some of those stories. It helps to share story in a really engaging way. The works sometimes can be just soft and gentle and they draw you in, and then you realise what records they've come from or what the impact was. Like you see the cow skin and you see these beautiful lithographs and screen prints that have been done with Sarah's work. And then you actually understand some of the terminology and context behind it, and it takes on a different meaning. But you take that away. I think Professor Susan Best talks about reparative aesthetics, the fact that an artwork can draw you in aesthetically, and then it actually embeds its story deep in your heart. And from there, it kind of has a ripple effect. And instead of being really confrontational and aggressive immediately, it goes deeper than that. But a lot of the artists seem to have a natural way of creating like that. So some of the comments Des has shared, that it went from being an oppressive place where I felt that I needed to whisper to a safe place due to the care and friendliness of Alicia, Chris, the preservation team, and all the staff in general. Sarah was talking about the positive experience I got from the archives has given me the confidence to keep researching my family history and to search in other places for records, especially military records of my great-grandfather in the National Archives and the Australian War Memorial. I would never have started to look for information on my great-grandfather if I didn't attend the tour, so behind-the-scenes tour, and have all that anxiety taken away about how to search for information and being made to feel welcome.
So, Melissa, talk me through the students that are part of this.
So we have Arabella Walker, who's Woolo Woolo, Chelsea Karki, Wagaman, Desert Rain Magpie, who's Noongar, Paul Levi, Yugonbear, Rachel Bywaters, Gamilaroi, and Sarah Zalewski, Miganberry.
And how did you first get involved with the State Archives?
I actually applied for an artist residency. It was my first major one, major arts application since graduating at CAIA, so Contemporary Australian Indigenous Art, at Griffith University, so Queensland College of Art and Design, where I actually studied and where I'm now teaching, and this is where the students have come from. So it's a great collaboration. They were doing a project called Identity, is one of their classes, and I get to teach into that class as a sessional lecturer. So, yeah, I actually applied for this residency and didn't get it, but I got the top 3. And through those conversations with Alicia, she said, my managers really love your project and they'd like to continue. And so they supported me to actually still be able to do my research and to have an exhibition there, my first solo. And from there, the conversations and the collaborations and the connections have continued. And then I'm able to break down the barriers of how it has felt approaching and accessing the archives, and to be able to lead the students there and take them along and go, come on, let's do a bit of a road trip, let's do a field trip, and see that it's actually really exciting, it's intriguing, you will be made welcome. It opens up just a vast avenue of things that you can access, and you can tell by the responses, their creative responses, that it's just enlivened their practices and their personal research as well.
Mm. And you've exhibited at Queensland State Archives yourself.
Yes, I have. Yeah. Mm. Yes, I had my exhibition there, and hopefully, potentially one coming up with my honours exhibition and new works that I've expanded upon. So, yeah.
So it's an ongoing relationship between Queensland State Archives and Griffith University through the CAIA program, but also Queensland State Archives is actively encouraging creative artists, writers, filmmakers to come and visit the archives. We are always happy to give a behind-the-scenes tour so they can get an idea of how the archives work. and encouraging them to use the archival records as inspiration or a launching point for creative works as well.
There's so much in those archives as well. I bet there's people listening thinking, oh, love to go check that out. How do people approach Queensland State Archives to get access?
Well, I mean, the most direct way is to get in touch with the staff at the reading room. So you can, of course, anyone can come and visit the archives. We do have a reading room that's open there. The archivists that work in that reading room are very, very friendly and helpful. But if you can't get down to Runcorn in South Brisbane, you can just send an email through the QSA website and just tell us what you're after, and we'll do everything we can to assist with that.
Fantastic. That is Rose Barrowcliff from Queensland State Archives. She's the First Nations advisor there, and Melissa Stannard, the curator of this exhibition. It's called Beneath This Skin, and it's on right now until the 15th of July. So you've got a few months to check that out at Queensland State Archives. Big thanks to Rose and Melissa for that chat this morning on ABC Sunshine Coast.